All right, and hello, and thanks for tuning in to this edition of the EV Revolution Show. My name is Kenneth Bokor, your host, as I'm here on location in lovely San Diego, California, USA, down for the press launch, the North American press launch of the Hyundai IONIQ 5. So I'm doing a quick review video here. Thanks very much for taking the time to tune in. I appreciate it. Let me give you my thoughts on this wonderful all-electric offering. So I'm here next to the historic USS Midway down on the San Diego Harbor, and I thought it was quite fitting to have brand new technology here in the IONIQ 5, which is a futuristic kind of looking machine next to a historic landmark of the Midway aircraft carrier. So it's a beautiful setting for that, and we've had just about a day to drive this vehicle, and as you'll see on some of the upcoming video, we had one of the storms of the century roll through yesterday, which was the day that we actually had for driving the vehicle. About 50-60 miles inland and then a reverse course back. Beautiful scenery. Unfortunately, we had gale force winds, we had torrential rains, and we had some really weird and wonderful road conditions, to say the least. But we managed to trudge through and get our bearings and our perceptions on this IONIQ 5. All right, just had to move to another spot because it's pretty busy here with trucks and a lot of tourists coming through. So let's start with the design of the IONIQ 5. It really is an eye-catching design. Most of you folks have seen this. It's been out for a bit now. This is a sleek and sophisticated design from Hyundai, and it's kind of, I believe, their design language moving forward. It's a progressive design that represents a departure from their past, normal type of car platforms and design elements. This is a big wheelbase vehicle it's very deceiving for the size of the vehicle. It's a 118.1-inch wheelbase, which means it's very stable, as all the wheels are pushed to the extreme corners, and it's a nice wide platform as well. Remember, this is based on the eGMP platform, which is Hyundai Motor Corporation's, because that platform is shared both with Hyundai and Kia as their all-electric ground-up skateboard platform moving forward for their future electrification. And it really shows in this vehicle with the design elements that you can do, with these pixel LED lighting, as I commented when I did a static review of this back last summer, earlier in the summer. It really is an eye-catching design from the bumper to the rear. The flush door handles are cool. Again, a lot of manufacturers are going with those elements for aerodynamic and for the cool factor. It's really got a nice sense of form as the front and rear design elements merge together with really strong C-pillars, and it really does give it, I kind of like say, a bulldog kind of presence, that wide and stout type of look to it. Now, this is the top spec model, which has 20-inch wheels. I believe the lower spec you can get 19, so it really is outfitted if you want to spec it up with a really nice package.
The IONIQ 5 is based on the eGMP platform as part of the IONIQ family that Hyundai brings to the electrification landscape. They developed the IONIQ 5 to be very innovative in the design, as you can see. I keep talking and bringing up a lot of elements of that design. That solid eGMP platform really proves itself in this vehicle, being the first of its kind with that, and I'll talk more about that in my driving impressions. Hyundai feels they wanted to put a lot of advanced technology in this, and they do offer some great things, which we'll talk about. And from a safety element, it's always top of mind with Hyundai, and also, of course, anything that's all-electric has inherently some better safety characteristics. So Hyundai has capitalized on these with this vehicle.
Now here's the performance specs about the battery range and horsepower. It's got very nice ratings. Here's what you can read on that.
The IONIQ 5 comes with two battery choices, a 58 kilowatt-hour for standard ranges, and then a longer range at 77.4 kilowatt-hour offering. These offer different power options, of course. For the single-motor rear-wheel drive with the 58 kilowatt-hour pack, it has a power rating of 107 kilowatts, which equates to 143 horsepower and 200 pound-feet of torque. Sticking with the single-motor rear-wheel drive, but with the larger battery pack, Hyundai delivers more power to that motor at 168 kilowatts, providing 225 horsepower and 228 pound-feet of torque. And if you want to go with the dual-motor all-wheel drive version, again with the larger 77.4 battery pack, you will get more power at 239 kilowatts of a rating. That will give you a whopping 320 horsepower and 446 pound-feet of torque. Yeah, the EPA rated ranges on the IONIQ 5 are really good, with the standard range rear-wheel drive coming in at 354 kilometers or 220 miles. The long-range all-wheel drive at 414 kilometers, 257 miles, and the long-range rear-wheel drive at 488 kilometers or 303 miles. Now, the IONIQ 5 interior is very spacious. Remember, folks, this has an extended wheelbase of 3,000 millimeters, so it really is a very long wheelbase to do a lot to for the interior. It's Hyundai's longest wheelbase vehicle in North America in their product lineup. Now, they've structured this interior around what they call a smart living room concept, and it really tries to integrate digital technology with flexible spaces to create that expansive and open interior and the feeling you get from that. Things like a flat floor and the pass-through in the front compartment, a very slim designed seat, but yet very supportive and comfortable. As you can see by the B-roll and the pictures, the dash is very well laid out, minimalistic, yet there's enough buttons and switches for the main functions that you like. It does have that sliding center console element as well to create roominess and to adjustability for the back seat. That standard sliding second row as well, which is a huge feature for a lot of people that do sit in the back seat. That panoramic vision sunroof as well is very, very nice. I like that you have the ability to close it. The ambient lighting, of course, which I've showed, just another feature that will really help buyers feel comfortable or owners feel comfortable with their passengers in these vehicles. Now, there are a lot of sustainable materials throughout the cabin, things from the armrest and the seats to the door center garnish, headliners and stuff. There's a lot of recycled and sustainable materials that these things are made from, which is great to see Hyundai be able to do that in this type of vehicle. Now, you also get this comfort seat option in the IONIQ 5, and as you can see by this video, it allows you to really recline and get comfortable in that seat with a footrest that rises up and pretty well puts you down to flat, and it's a nice position if you are charging or want to rest. The IONIQ 5 has an 800-volt architecture, which means it does very well on the charging scale. Has a built-in 10.9 kilowatt AC charger for very good overnight speeds. And for level 3, if you plug it into a 350 kilowatt or an ultra-fast charger, it does support over 200 kilowatt of peak DC rates at fast charging, which means that it will get you a lot of charge in that 20 to 18 minute range up to 80%, which is really good. And the other cool feature is vehicle-to-load capabilities with that two-way onboard charger capabilities. It will supply external power of up to 1.9 kilowatts, and there's two types of connectors. There's the exterior connection, which is standard, and then there's the cabin connection, which is available only on the Ultimate package. Now, that exterior connector is an option. It's about $300 Canadian to purchase that option, and you plug that in, as you can see on these pictures, and then power up all kinds of different devices. So great if you're hosting, if you're somewhere camping and you need some power for the evening, or you want to stop at the side of the road and make a lunch or something like that. There's not a lot of vehicles that provide vehicle to load today, other than getting in some sort of inverter and using your 12-volt system that we would today. But this offers a lot more power, so you could plug in a lot more devices to it to enjoy yourselves when you're out and about.
Okay, you folks know I always like to test the back seat and the comfort level. Now, this is a very surprisingly big vehicle for what could be deceived as a smaller hatchback vehicle. It's not. It's got a really good width, as I mentioned, and length to it with that wheelbase, and that encompasses a lot of rear seat room. Really easy entrance to get in. The seat's basically where I have it, and I'm 5'6", 5'7"-ish in that range. And as you can see, I've got lots of leg room, more than a fist. I've got lots of headroom, more than a fist, and that's with the panoramic roof here. That's the sunroof here, which of course takes away some of the roof height. A very comfortable back seat. 4 people are going to be very comfortable. You can certainly fit 5 for the middle. It's a nicely outfitted, again, the top spec with all the nice trim packages and little conveniences, even window shades to keep the sun out for kids. It's a really thought out, nice design. Of course, these seats can recline as well, so you can get some movement for reclining if you want to go back a bit. They're a 60-40 split. I don't think they move forward and back, but they do recline. So really, Hyundai's really thought about the interior here. So this is the start of our IONIQ 5 drives. As you can see, they've got a bunch lined up here in downtown rainy and windy San Diego today. But it should be fun, and looking forward to getting a driving experience.
Just a quick pit stop for lunch here as we're driving the IONIQ 5 around, and unfortunately it's a really rainy and windy day today. Some severe rainstorms coming through, but we're trying to do what we can, folks, to get you a good review. So hopefully we'll be able to get some good shots in a bit. One thing I want to mention, I'm not driving right now. My partner in crime, Andrew, is doing the driving, but this is a really quiet vehicle. We're going, about 30-40 miles an hour into the wind on a windy road with a lot of rain, and it is extremely quiet in this vehicle. Now, these are running all seasons, not winter tires, obviously, but still, we were both impressed at how quiet this vehicle is under these conditions. So just another great feature that Hyundai has done is be able to build in some really nice sound reduction and keep the cabin very quiet.
Just taking a quick pit stop on our outing here as we get some rain and wind, and we got a little bit of a lull here, but it's still a mist. So just thought we'd stop for a quick scenic photo bombing here as we're making our way through the foothills here. And this car's been handling great in these winding roads. We've been climbing an elevation. We're up at almost 5,000 feet. Still managing really good efficiency at about 2 miles per kilowatt. I'll flash what that is in kilometers here, but really nice stable platform, handles extremely well. All right, so just giving my quick driving impressions here as I'm kind of waterlogged from this rain that we're having as I stop to change, put the gear up. As you've been seeing on some of the videos, this is a really quiet and very comfortable car. And Andrew and I both agree that the platform that Hyundai has come out with in this eGMP is a very solid platform. It's got a nice long wheelbase, so the car is very planted, very controlled as we're going through the winding roads, canyonways, even in the wind blowing, gusting at 40 miles an hour in some cases. Quite strong. The car just stays on the track that you tell it to go. You steer it to go. So it's a very well engineered and designed to fit and finish. It's quiet, nothing's rattling. These are production vehicles, US production spec vehicles that we're driving here. So I just activated the lane keeping and the cruise control, and this is actually performing quite well. It's telling me I have to grab the steering wheel every 15 seconds or so, but as you can see by the HUD, we're doing a pretty good clip, 44 miles an hour, and it's doing a nice banking turn. It might wander a little bit here. No, it came back, it asked me for the warning, give it a quick nudge, but it's doing that on its own. So, as far as comparing this to like an autopilot experience, it's pretty good. Like, it's not really recommended for roads like this. All those systems are really for more highway driving, but to be able to negotiate turns and twists like this automatically, I think Hyundai's built a great system here. Just wanted to quickly show one of the features that Hyundai built into this is the turn signal camera view. So as you can see, I'm changing lanes to the left, and it not only is there a blind spot monitoring, but there's also the indicator here. And I just wanted to point out how clear this is, this picture. As you can see, we're in really torrential rain situations right now. Doing about 50 miles an hour, as you can see by the HUD when I bring the HUD into the camera. And that camera that shows you the side is pretty well crystal clear, which is very important on days like today where you have visibility that's questionable. So again, hats off to Hyundai for doing some really cool engineering. I'm going to change lanes one more time so you can see the other side. But so it just shows you that blind spot, and that's a really good view in pretty bad weather conditions. All the controls are really easy to understand and navigate. All the steering wheel controls, as you've seen on the video, the adaptive cruise works really well. The lane keeping, the adaptive cruise, that combination is almost Tesla-like. It's that close to being good. It's not 100% because Tesla does set such a high bar with autopilot, but this is pretty close. This is one of the better systems that I've experienced from that aspect. Here again with the HUD and the controls, the blind spot monitoring, all the safety elements are working quite well. The selectable regen, you can leave it on auto, which is just like a normal vehicle, or there's a 1, 2, 3. level of regen, the higher the number being stronger, and then there is the one pedal, or they call it I-pedal here in the IONIQ 5, which will take you to a full stop, and there's a hold button as well, so you can come to a complete stop. We haven't tested city driving as far as it automatically starting again, whether you have to tap a pedal or push a button, but I'm assuming it will have that sort of functionality. But the main takeaway that we both have in discussing as we're driving is really how solid and planted and easy to drive the vehicle is. Very quiet, got ample performance. We've been driving predominantly on eco and trying the normal and sport modes a little bit. Again, lots of torque, good enough power to get you onto the freeway quite fast, get you to pass somebody quite easily. Steering is nice and responsive. Brakes got a good feel to them. You know, there's nothing negative from a driving experience on this vehicle. As I mentioned, the augmented reality display helps provide necessary information to the HUD in front of you. There may be a way to turn the HUD off. We haven't explored the menuing system in the short time that we've had with this vehicle, but that could be something for if people don't like heads-up displays that they'll be able to do. The range, we're still seeing about 2.8 now of miles per kilowatt hour. Small accident there, so somebody did something wrong, which is about right because we've been going up and down through canyons and hills, and our temperature was about 6 degrees C, and now we climbed up to 13, but we're still going into very heavy winds and rain. So all in all, doing quite well. Heating works extremely well. Like the heated seats, they're both heated and cooled seats, so you'll be able to find the comfort there. The nav is responsive and nice. The screens are easy to read the information. They're bright and intelligent in the feedback. Again, we haven't explored all the menus, but there's lots of different options. But for a vehicle that doesn't look that big in pictures, it's actually quite roomy on the inside, and I'll give you some numbers on cargo capacity in a moment. But just a really comfortable, solid car to drive. So my hat's off to Hyundai for just building another quality vehicle. Just have a quick look at the dash here. It's a well-appointed interior, again, with a combination of buttons and touch screens. You have your driver's binnacle, which has a lot of pertinent information here. As you can see, the range and all that stuff. And I'll put up the numbers of what kind of range we experienced, but it seemed to be in the normal based on the driving conditions, the temperature changes, the wind, elevation changes. We probably saw about a 20% drop in range because of the whole colder temperatures and everything happening, which aligned very much for what we got. Then you have, of course, another adjoining screen here. I wasn't so sure about the color palette, but it actually works quite well. And as you can see, we've got the nav on, but I can change it to different settings. There's lots of things you can go into on here, especially from an EV if you want to dig and get all kinds of different data. You could set charging levels, all kinds of things. So I'm not going to go through all the menu settings because there's lots of information there that you can do. All kinds of settings, lots of safety features. Of course, this has a full suite of safety features which work very well, as you saw in the video of the driving impressions with some of the blind spot cameras and everything. Climate controls are separate here, and then there's quick function buttons for some of the main things you'll need on the display. Again, this floating console here that moves back and forth, which is nice. A big storage area that you can put stuff with a nice armrest. Very, very, thought out interior.
Just want to briefly talk about our actual driving experience here. As I mentioned, we had really bad weather, gale force winds, lots of rain all day. Pretty well once we started until we came back to the hotel, it rained all day from about 9 in the morning till about 3 in the afternoon when we got back. Here are the numbers for our actual driving range. We started with 100% state of charge, showing us 274 miles. And when we got back to the hotel, we were left with 88 miles of range estimation, with actual driving 137 miles. Now, that may not look that good, but take into account the weather, the temperatures being in the 7 to 8 degrees C, and more importantly, the winds. We were going slightly with the winds, but on our forward out journey, but that was uphill. So we went from pretty well sea level up to about 5,000 feet in altitude for the drive. 5. And then, of course, coming down, we do gain some in regen, of course, but we were going into the winds that were coming from the west. As we were driving to the west, we were into those gale force winds and heavy rains, as you saw in some of that video, and really slowing things down. So I think the car fared pretty good all in all. We did not charge, we did not stop to charge or anything like that. So I just wanted to lay that out there, that I believe that this vehicle is getting pretty close, if not EPA range estimates, might even be better in the nicer climates. But this was a bit of a taxing situation, and of course your mileage will always vary. Cargo capacity is pretty good in the IONIQ 5. With the second row up, you get 531 liters, 18.8 cubic feet. Fold that 60-40 seats down, you get 1,600 liters or 56.5 cubic feet. There is no major storage area below the floor that you see there, so it's a flat floor. And you open the front hood, there is a small front trunk area. It's 57 liters or 2 cubic feet, basically enough to store your charging cables, maybe a bottle of windshield washer fluid, something like that. It's a safety kit. It's not designed for luggage, but it will work for a lot of items.
Spider-Man, aka Peter Parker, is a criminal. That's why he's hiding.
It's time to clear my name. Come on. Spider-Man, Spider-Man. Is he stranded? Yes, he is. Ned? Hey, man. How'd you find me?
My Ned sense. But also, time to face your destiny.
What?
I don't know, I just wanted to say something really cool.
So, what are we gonna do for 300 miles?
I spy something red.
Me?
Nah, darn.
300-mile range on a single charge. See the all-electric IONIQ 5 in Spider-Man No Way Home.
177A Bleecker Street.
Who lives there?
You'll see.
Now, from a pricing perspective, Hyundai Canada and the US have prices very aggressively. And again, one thing I was very surprised in is that all the trim levels of the IONIQ 5 available in Canada do qualify for the $5,000 federal rebate, which is outstanding. Even the top spec model like this, which I believe comes in at $59,900 and change, you will get the $5,000 off that. Because they've been able to price it as a different MSRP with a trim package added on for this premium edition here. So for Canadians, that makes it very competitive in the price marketplace for the range and the amenities, so the well-equipped options that you can get for this vehicle compared to others out there. Here's a chart that I keep, a spreadsheet that I keep of various all-electric vehicles and their Canadian MSRPs, and you can see the IONIQ 5 family range. It's scattered throughout that, but all qualifying for that $5,000. And if you live in BC or Quebec, you can stack additional incentives and rebates onto that. And in BC, you can get up to $14,000 or $15,000 off if you use the Scrap It program as well. That makes a very compelling vehicle for the performance and the capabilities that you get with the IONIQ 5. So for my final wrap up on the IONIQ 5, it's an outstanding vehicle. I think all the journalists that came down for this media event were very surprised at the capabilities and the roadworthiness and just the comfort, the quietness, all the nuances that we've grown to kind of look at from an all-electric vehicle. This hit everything on the mark. Now, it's not perfect. A couple small things. One thing that this does not have a rear wiper. And we were kind of all surprised because most of us may not have noticed had we not had the deluge of rain that we had yesterday. There is no rear wiper at all in the IONIQ 5 family. Now, Hyundai said they're going to send that back to product management and they may come up with one in the future. Every car was a little bit different. We found when we were driving, it wasn't too bad using the rear defogger to kind of dry up some of the splash that was coming up from the roadway and from the vortexes in the rear. But certainly for Canadian winters and all the muck that we can get with salt and snow and all that stuff after a couple of days, a rear wiper I think is definitely going to be something that they're going to have to put on this in the future. It's not a showstopper, but just something to be aware of because that's typically what you find on a hatchback. So even with that small issue, the software was really well done. However, sometimes you have to go into a couple of menus deep to get basic functions like heated seat controls and things like that. But again, it's like anything, once you learn the menuing system, it becomes second nature. Hyundai will offer OTA, over-the-air updates on this vehicle. So with all that in mind, do I recommend the IONIQ 5? Oh man, you bet I recommend this. This is a great step forward for Hyundai in moving their electrification commitments and endeavors forward. This is a fantastic platform. They've done an outstanding job on this EGMP and it really shows in the capabilities of this vehicle. Great price point, lots of room, lots of great features in this. Very strong build quality and materials that are used here. It's an absolute big thumbs up and 2 thumbs up on this one. And if you're seriously interested in an all-electric vehicle and you not necessarily want to look at a Model 3 or a Tesla product, this is kind of being stacked up against the ID.4 and the Mustang Mach-E from Ford. So that's kind of where they're positioning this vehicle. I can tell you this has more interior cargo volume and passenger volume than those other two. Some of them win in some other areas, but this does. It's very in line with acceleration specs and everything else. So as a good alternative, depending on what your needs are, of course, try to check out each vehicle yourself and see how it fits for you ergonomically. But the seats are comfortable, lots of leg room. That floating console's cool. It gives you a bigger sense of openness. And I found all the controls easy to use. So an absolute well done job by Hyundai. And if you're looking for something, certainly look into this vehicle. All right, and that's it for this edition of the EV Revolution Show. Thanks very much for tuning in and sticking out through this review. Appreciate you watching. If you are subscribing through YouTube, I very much appreciate it. If you haven't, please maybe think about doing that. You can also click that bell icon so you'll get notified of new episodes when they get pushed out. Again, if you are supporting me on Patreon, I'm always humbled by your support. Very much appreciated. You can check the link below if you want to get more information on that. It's always very much thankful for that. Continue to watch the EV Revolution. Now stay safe. Some places we're kind of taking a little bit of a step back here on the COVID side, so continue to use your common sense, follow your local public health guidelines, whatever you feel is practical, stay safe, and continue, as I mentioned, to watch the EV landscape. 2022 is going to be a fantastic year for EVs. A lot more EVs coming out to hit the streets. Hopefully we'll see some inventories because of the chip shortages and all the other stuff happening. We'll have to see how many models and actual units hit the dealerships and showrooms, but I'm confident that 2022 is going to be a banner year for the EV revolution. So until the next episode, everybody stay safe. Thank you very much, and I'll see you when I see you. Take care.